We can get started. So I just want to say welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tanea Bannon with the Clifton Park-Halfmoon Public Library, and we're very fortunate to have professional genealogist Lisa Dougherty here with us today to present us with the 10 best free websites to use for your family history. I noticed that a couple of you need to leave a little early today. This is being recorded, so you should be able to find it on the library's YouTube channel sometime in the next few days. I also wanted to let you know that we are hopefully having Lisa back again on Monday, June 8th. That's 4 weeks from now at the same time, presenting on myths about immigrant ancestors. So check our calendar again within the coming week to find that and sign up for it. And that's all I have. Oh, Lisa will be presenting for about 45 minutes. If you have questions as you think of them, you can type them into the Q&A or the chat feature. And then at the end, she'll go through and respond to your questions. So that's now all I have for today. I will turn it over to Lisa.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanea. And thanks, everybody, for joining me today. And I also just want to thank the Clifton Park Library for giving me this opportunity. I think this is wonderful. A lot of us are taking advantage of these kinds of resources because we're home and we have a little bit more free time on our hands. And it's a great time, really, to be doing your family history, to be starting your family history. So hopefully today, I'm going to introduce you to some new resources or maybe some old resources that you haven't looked at in a while. But the best thing about all these resources is that they're all free. And we know that there's a lot of sites out there that are not free, but these are going to be some that are free that you can use from your home and you can use anytime. And they're going to be all kinds of different websites. They're going to have different content. They're going to be used for different things. But the general consensus is that all of them are free and that you can use them from home. So hopefully when you are done with this presentation, you'll have a few new ideas to try to help find out more about your family history. So these websites are in no particular order. Well, actually, they're in alphabetical order, so they're not in order of preference or anything like that. They're just in order of alphabetical. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about each website. And if my links work, I'm hopefully going to be able to go to each website and we're going to take a look at what they have to offer. So we're going to start out with Basic, and Basic is Cindy's List. Now, if you've never heard of Cindy's List is probably one of the oldest websites for genealogy that's online. It came online in 1995, and it's run by a woman called Cindy Ingalls. Cindy is she's a genealogist, she's a hobbyist. She's been collecting links on her website since 1995. And when she started the website, the aim was to collect all of the genealogy links online. Now you can imagine in 1995, this was probably a little easier task than it is today. But this website is extremely active. It's still used all the time. It gets about 250,000 visits every month. And Cindy is very active with working on the links. They usually catalog about 1,500 new links every month. So they're always adding new content. They're always fixing the broken links. They're always deleting things that aren't there anymore. So it's kept up to date pretty well, which is great for us. So Cindy's List it's arranged by category. So there are 180 different categories on this website. And to access them, you would just click on category and you can see a list, an alphabetical list of the categories. Now with 180 categories to choose from, you can imagine that these range from fairly general to really, really, really specific. One of the things that I personally like to use Cindy's List for is if I find myself researching something that I'm not very familiar with or a place that I'm not very familiar with. Now, being in upstate New York, I research a lot of things in New York, but recently I've been researching somebody in the state of Nebraska, and I don't know a lot about the state of Nebraska. So that would be a great opportunity for me to use one of the categories in Cindy's list. The other thing too that you can use it for are just different types of things. For example, like occupations. Sometimes we find ourselves with ancestors that have a unique or different kind of occupation than something we're familiar with. But we can research using Cindy's list all kinds of different occupations. So if our ancestor was a photographer, for example, or if our ancestor was involved in the circus, there is a category for that. So you can see that there are a lot of different possibilities here. So for example, if we click on circus, we can get different resources for information about people who were involved in the circus. So we've got Circus Historical Society, we've got circuses and sideshows, we've got even old photos of circus performers. Who knows, maybe we could even find our ancestor in the old photo of the circus performers. So there are lots of different possibilities in here. Some of your categories are going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of links. Others are going to be more just specific, like the circus one we were just looking at. But if we go in and we look at states, we can also look at states. We can go into United States and look at states. Here we go, United Kingdom. Here's United States. So I was talking about Nebraska a minute ago. I can search Nebraska. And you can see within each category we have subcategories. So if I want to know about cemeteries in Nebraska, if I want to know about the different counties in Nebraska, I can use any of these subcategories to find information about cemeteries, census, whatever in the state of Nebraska. So Cindy's list will not only point you to free resources, but it will also point you to the pay resources such as Ancestry.com or other places where you might have to pay. So just be aware of that as you're tooling around Cindy's list. But you can see that there are lots and lots of possibilities here for digging in and really researching lots of information about your ancestry. So that's Cindy's list. It's pretty it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a lot of really good information. Okay, so now moving on to a resource that many of you may not be aware of. And this is a great resource because it's got a lot of content, a lot of things that you could dig down into, a lot of information to be found. And it's called the DPLA, or Digital Public Library of America. And it's exactly what it says. So it's a public library full of digital content. Now, of course, at this point in time when all of our libraries are closed, we don't have the option of going to our local public library and using the resources of what's available at their library. We do have the options of using public library websites. But what if you're searching for something specific and you don't really know the name of the library, or you don't know if it has digital content? Where could you find something that will point you to what you're looking for? Well, the Digital Public Library of America is just that. It will give you information about the digital content that is hosted on public library websites. So a lot of our public libraries have not only physical books, but they also have digital content. And the DPLA is a wonderful resource to be able to figure out exactly what kind of digital content these public libraries have. There's lots of resources to use for being able to dig into this, to be able to find out what's in here. You can check to see what libraries have information here. So you can see there's some very familiar library names here. The National Archives, the Smithsonian Institution, the New York Public Library. Then there's going to be some things that you may not be all that familiar with. Empire State Digital Network, that would probably be of interest to New Yorkers. So there's lots of things on here that are hosted in the DPLA. And the good thing about the DPLA is that it's a one-stop kind of shopping place. So you can come here, you can do a search, You can find what you're looking for. You don't have to visit the individual websites because this website will lead you to them. So for example, if I'm going to say I'm researching an ancestor that lived in Clifton Park, New York, and I would like some pictures maybe of the town or maybe the church that my ancestor attended or the school that my ancestor attended, I can put the search term Clifton Park in here, and I can search, and I can see what kind of content we can find. And you can see from the entries, it will give you the name of the place that we searched for, it will give you a description of the item, and it will give you the place where the item is located. So I'm guessing if it's Clifton Park in the Cleveland Public Library, it's probably not the Clifton Park we're looking for. So let's continue on down the way here. Okay, we've got here Missouri, that's probably not right. Well, here's a Clifton Park house, and it looks like it comes from the Clifton Park-Halfmoon Public Library. So that looks like it would be very promising. So we can pull up the entry and it will show us a little bit about it. It will show us the picture. You go into view full item, it'll show us a bigger picture, and it'll give us a description. It'll tell us what's written on the back. It will tell us a little bit about it. So this is all really great information. So say this was the house you lived in, or this might be a house on your street. This would give you more historical information to put into your family tree. So these are some really great resources that are available to us as we're sitting here at home, and it's free. So that's one of the great things about it. Clifton Park is one of the libraries in this area that has access in this particular collection. I know Guilderland is another one. So there are lots of local libraries, but again, take advantage of it and use those resources for the United States, for different states, for places that you're maybe not familiar with. A lot of times we want to have pictures from places that we don't know about, or we want to look for documents from places that we don't know about. So definitely this is a wonderful resource for those types of things. So that's the DPLA. So that might be something you've never heard of before. So now on to something that's probably very familiar to a lot of you. If you've been doing genealogy for a long time, then you are definitely familiar with this website, FamilySearch. FamilySearch is the website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons. And the Mormons for many years have been digitizing and recording and photographing records all around the world. It's part of the Mormon religion to research your family history. And the Mormons have graciously allowed those of us who are not members of the church to access their content. They have the largest genealogical library in the world. It's located in Salt Lake City. And they have this library open to the public, although it's not open now, as most libraries are not. You can go there physically, but they also make a lot of the content available online at their FamilySearch website. So FamilySearch, I always send people to because it's a wonderful free resource. It contains about as much content as Ancestry.com. There's a lot of overlap between the two websites. There's a lot of things that are on FamilySearch that are also on Ancestry. But the difference between the two is that FamilySearch is free all the time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can use FamilySearch for free. So one of the things that FamilySearch asks you to do is to set up an account. It's not a paid account, it's a free account. It's so that they can see who's using the site, so they can get some idea of traffic, how many people are using it. So it's a good idea to register so that you can access the full content of the website. There's lots and lots of things to look at here. You could easily spend hours looking through these resources. The main feature is probably going to be the search feature. There's different things you can search. You can search records, you can search images, you can search online family trees. Online family trees are great for searching, but a word of caution. As with every other family tree online, make sure that you check out everything that's in that family tree. Don't just take it as word because it's been submitted online. Make sure that you verify everything. So the main content of FamilySearch is definitely going to be the records. And records are available for the worldwide area. It's not just the United States, it's everywhere in the world. You can search collections by location, you can search them by type of record, you can simply put in an ancestor's name and search an ancestor's name. So if I put in my great-great-grandfather's name, I can search for him. As with any other search engine, when you put a name in and nothing else, you're going to be blessed with thousands and thousands of hits. So it might be a good idea to filter. Maybe you might want to filter by a birth year, or you might want to filter by where your ancestor lived. But there are lots and lots of possibilities here for searching. You can do searches for specific records. You can do that in the card catalog. Card catalog is accessed by going to the top here where it says catalog. And the card catalog will search everything that is in the library, the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. And as the aim of the Family History Library is to digitize all of their material, a good portion of their material has already been digitized. A lot of it is available on the FamilySearch website. Some of it is only available in the FamilySearch Family History Library. Now, the good thing about the Family History Library is that it has branches. So not only is the location in Salt Lake City, there's also locations locally. We have one here in the Capital District of Albany in Loudonville. It's on Route 9 near Siena College. So when things are open again, that branch will be open, and you can access content in that branch that you can't access online. But again, it's all free, so it is not something you're going to pay for. A couple more things I wanted to point out about the FamilySearch website. One of them is the FamilySearch Wiki. And if you click on that, that brings you to a page where you can get information about just about any genealogy content that you want. If you're looking for information about a particular record type, say you have an ancestor who served in the Revolutionary War, and you don't know really much about the Revolutionary War, you don't know about the records that were created, you can search Revolutionary War, and it will give you information about the war. It will give you information about records that were generated from the war. So it will give you a lot of really basic information. So this is a really good resource for how-tos. So if you don't know something, if you don't know about a particular topic, you can search here. Another great feature is the Learning Center. If you click on Help, you will see Learning Center here. In the Learning Center, you're going to see lots and lots of lessons. These lessons are video lessons. You can play them anytime, any place. You can start them and stop them. They are all different topics about anything in genealogy. And I don't know about you, but I really can learn a lot more easily if I can see. So these are great for visual. So you can see a couple of the topics here that you can search through. So lots and lots of great information on this section of FamilySearch. So FamilySearch is generally one of those things where you could just be on it all day and learn something new all the time. So moving ahead, cemetery records. Cemetery records, gravestone pictures, all of these things are very, very useful to us as genealogists. A lot of us start out with our genealogy by visiting the cemeteries where our family members are buried. But what happens if you live in New York State and your ancestors lived in Illinois, or your ancestors lived in Canada? How can you find information about where they're buried? Well, a great resource for that is FindAGrave. FindAGrave is a website that started in 1999, and it began with the objective of putting pictures of gravestones online, so that if you were not able to visit your ancestor's grave in person, you could come to this website and you could see a picture of their gravestone. Well, since then, it's grown to include a lot more content other than just gravestone pictures. Now, there are things on here like ancestor biographies, there are obituaries, there are actual cemetery records that have been transcribed and uploaded to this website. So there's lots and lots of content on here. So just as an example, I'm going to put another ancestor of mine in here, another great-great-grandfather, and I know that he lived in Schoharie County, New York, so I can narrow my search down. And when I search for him, I find that he has a memorial, and it has a picture, and it can show us a picture of the ancestor if there is one. If you have a picture of your ancestor and you want to add it to a memorial for them, you can certainly do that. There's a picture of his gravestone here, a little bit about his Civil War service. So since all of these memorials are user contributed, volunteers are contributing all of this information, it's up to you to do the fact checking. So you may find mistakes on FindAGrave. Again, this is secondary source material, so buyer beware. You need to check out everything before you take it as gospel. One of the most common mistakes I find that's made on this page is that people try to read the headstones and use that information for the memorial. And as we all know, these headstones can be very difficult to read, and the older they get, the harder they are to read. So just be aware that sometimes the information that's up here may not be 100% accurate. So just keep that in mind. But all in all, it's a wonderful site. It's great for finding information about our ancestors at a distance. You can set up memorials for people. If you go in here and find that your ancestor is not in here, you can join the site and set up a memorial for them. So it's a resource that is invaluable to those of us that are doing research all over the country and all over the world. Conversely, there is a second site called FamilySearch. This one is a little different in that it gives GPS locations for grave sites. It does not have the large content that FindAGrave has, but you may find some things on FamilySearch that you can't find on FindAGrave. So definitely keep that in mind. I find FamilySearch a little more difficult to navigate, but there is definitely some content that you should consider on that website as well. So it's a similar site. So those are great resources for finding out about cemetery records. So another wonderful resource that people use frequently for genealogy is newspapers. And I can't tell you the amount of information and the amount of really interesting information that I've found from newspapers over the years. There are things in newspaper articles that you're never going to find anywhere else. And plus the fact of sheer interest is really a great reason to use newspapers. To put your ancestor in historical content, to look at the front page of a newspaper for the day that they were born, to see what kind of news was going on in their community. Newspapers are a resource that just is one of the most valuable for family history. All of these resources I use probably on a daily basis. One that is very valuable to people with New York ancestry is Fulton History. And this is a strange little website. It's got a really kind of interesting interface. Some people find it a little difficult to search, but the best advice that I can give you is to just experiment with it. Use different types of searches. You can search for specific names, you can search for addresses, you can search for towns. There are a lot of different ways to search, and really the best way to get good at it is to actually do it and spend some time working with it. It's a free site, of course, and you're not going to have to worry about using up your time or using up your hits because it's free. One of the strategies that I like to use frequently is when I'm searching for a name, I like to put it in quotes. So if I'm going to search for my ancestor Patrick Penders, I like to put his name in quotes. That gives the search engine the idea that it's searching for just the two words Patrick and Penders together. So it's only going to give me hits where those two words are together. So you can see out of the 48 million newspaper pages, I'm getting 24 hits for my search Patrick Penders. So I can go through these and I can look and see if there's anything in here that might relate to my ancestor. This one looks promising, from the Utica, New York Daily Press. And it does highlight, hopefully, where your text search is. And it may not be working at this point, but it does highlight it for you so you don't have to go through and search the whole page. You can enlarge this page, you can print it, you can do lots of different things with it so you can actually read it. But it's a wonderful source for finding out information about different ancestors. Again, Fulton History, it's called Fulton History because it's run by a private individual, a man by the name of, and I want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly, Tom Tryniski. He lives in Fulton, New York, so that's why it's called Fulton History. He has scanned more newspaper pages than the Library of Congress has. So this is a tremendous resource, and it's all thanks to a specific individual. Also, another site that's great that you may not be aware of is New York State Historic Newspapers. This particular site comes from the Northern New York Library Network and the Empire State Library Network. It's got this great little map that you can click on. You can choose your county. I just happen to choose St. Lawrence County here. If I choose St. Lawrence County, I can search just newspapers in St. Lawrence County. So it allows me to narrow my geographic area, which is really very useful when looking for different things. Over here, it tells you the different newspapers that are available, so you get an idea of the years of coverage. Wonderful resource, not as well known as Fulton History, but you can do a lot of different searches here, and you can also find some information that you may not be able to find on Fulton History. And then finally, in the newspaper vein, there's this last website called the Ancestor Hunt. And I don't have a link to this, but the Ancestor Hunt is a collection of newspaper links. Again, this is a website that is run by a private individual by the name of Kenneth Marks. And he has developed this website that gives us links to all kinds of newspaper resources all over the country and the world. So if you are researching ancestors in a different state or in Canada or in other places and you want to be able to look at newspapers for those areas, you can go to this website, the Ancestor Hunt, and you can search by geographic location. So if I'm researching an ancestor in Alabama and I don't know the newspapers that are available for searching there, I can go to the Ancestor Hunt and look under the Alabama category, and it will give me listings of newspapers in that locality. So it's a great resource for out of the area newspapers or out of New York State newspapers. So definitely something that you should check out. Okay, moving on to Google. Okay, Google. Well, this seems like an obvious choice. Why would we do genealogy on Google? Well, Google's got a lot of great features. I would say, you know, if everyone's using Google for searches in general, or they're using Google for any other reason, you're probably only scratching the surface of the things that you can do with Google. Google, as we know, has got lots of different sub-sites. So there's not only just the Google search engine, but there's Google Earth, which if you are looking for a picture of an ancestor's house, or you want to see the street that an ancestor lived on, you can go to Google Earth and put that ancestor's address in and follow his street right along. So that's a really great resource. There are Google Books. Thousands of books that are out of print are available on Google Books for searching. I find a lot of information by searching Google Books. You can search for ancestors' names. You can search for places where they lived. You can search for things about their occupations. Lots of things that you can find in Google Books. There are I would recommend using an advanced search for Google. That's accessed by going to Google and going down here to settings. If you click on settings, you will see advanced search. And in the advanced search, you can do searches any number of ways. You can limit them to regions. You can limit them to when they were last updated. You can limit them to a lot of different things. I like to use an exact word or phrase search. Sometimes I'm searching for something where I need to exclude a word. So I will use the exclusion part here. So there are lots of different ways of finding things on Google. Another thing that I know that people like to use Google for is Google Alerts. So if you're looking for something in particular and you want to be alerted when something comes into a Google search that you might be interested in, you can set Google up to alert you when something shows up that you might be interested in. So you don't have to keep going in every day and searching for something new. Google will alert you. Now, of course, Google is a vast topic. There are tons of things in Google. There are tons of features. There's lots of things that we can use, and it's very confusing. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that this Saturday, there's going to be a program entitled Advanced Googling for Your Grandma. And this is a presentation that's going to be given by Cindy of Cindy's List. It's going to be available at the Legacy Family Tree Webinars website. So if you go to Legacy Family Tree Webinars, you will see a schedule of their webinars. And that's going to be on Saturday. I looked for a time and I couldn't find it. So you will have to probably go on the Legacy Family Tree Webinar website to see if they have it. You will have to register for the webinar. That's all there. You just register. They'll tell you what time. Legacy Family Tree has free webinars every day in May. So that might be something you also want to look at. But on Saturday specifically, they will be presenting Cindy's webinar, Advanced Googling for Your Grandmother. And I've seen her do that webinar before. It's fantastic. There are more ideas for Google in that webinar than you will ever use in your lifetime. So it is a wonderful presentation. She's a great speaker. So Google, yeah, use it, and it's a great and useful tool. So National Archives and Records Administration. So this is, of course, the website of just what it says, NARA, National Archives and Records Administration. This is a federal agency. So most of the content at archives.gov is going to be federally generated records. So in order to use federally generated records, you really kind of have to know what they are. What types of records were generated at the federal level? Well, those are going to be things like military records, census records. Let me look at my notes here. I can't remember. There's going to be military immigration is a good example of records that are federally generated. So things like passenger lists, naturalization records, any kind of military record, enlistment records, pension records, all of those types of records are national or federal records. So on the archives.gov website, you're going to find a bunch of resources that you can use, and you can see some different places to visit. If you want to get in and look at what types of records are available, you would go to Research Our Records. If you're interested in Veterans Service records, you could go to Veterans Service Records. There are different contents like news, you've got videos. There are different features on here, lots of things to explore. I find that most of these websites are so full of content that we could literally be here all day. The I want to section will answer a specific question. So one of the things that people use archives.gov for very frequently is to get the military records of their ancestors. And if you go to the I want to get my military record, you can be walked through the entire process of how to get a military record. So there's a very easy tutorial about how to do it, and it's all on here, and you can look and see what types of records are available for request. Another couple of things to point out, one of the things that I wanted to show everybody is this citizen archivist section. Obviously, some of us are home with some time on our hands, and one of the things that you can do is volunteer to be a citizen archivist. One of the goals of the National Archives is to get a lot of the resources that are physically in the buildings online so that people can use them. And one of the ways they're doing this is by recruiting ordinary average citizens like ourselves to transcribe these records so that they can be made available online. There's lots of different projects to choose from. You can choose things that interest you, and you can get involved by transcribing or tagging or doing lots of things to help make this content available to the public. So this is a really great resource. It's something fun to do. It's a way to give back to the genealogy community. So it's a really good thing to do. Another thing that I wanted to point out really quickly is this History Hub. History Hub is kind of a place where you can ask questions. So if you've got a question about a particular record or about a military record or about something that the National Archives might have, you can ask your question here on History Hub. There's a few questions on here. You can see somebody's posted about a handy tool for figuring out illegible words. Lots of different things, and this is actually under the content of Citizen Archivist. So there's lots of different things in History Hub that is informational, great place to ask questions. It's a sort of the social media of NARA. So that's National Archives Records Administration. That's a great resource for our federal records. So now to talk about something that you guys may not be aware of, a website called Reclaim the Records. Reclaim the Records is a nonprofit group who has the aim of making public records more accessible to all of us. Now, a lot of us as genealogists are familiar with, sometimes we have a hard time gaining access to the records that can help us with our family history. Well, what the organization Reclaim the Records does is they go to some of these government agencies and they file lawsuits on behalf of the public to make records available. And so far they've had a great track record. They've been able to make about 25 million records around the United States available to genealogists. Sometimes these records end up on sites where they can be easily searchable. Other times they end up just on this site so that we can search them. You can see they post information about some of their latest conquests. There was a lawsuit filed in April 2019 with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, so that's still pending. If you scroll down, you can see some of the records that they have been able to get access to. So, for example, indexed to the New York City marriage licenses from 1909 to 1929. If you click on that, it will bring up a way to search these records. So if you're searching for ancestors in the New York City area, and this database might be a help to you, because of Reclaim the Records, we now have access to these records. So this is a resource that is ongoing. There are things that are going on here that people are involved in. There was something I know for people that are local to the Albany area that there has been a lawsuit filed with Albany City to release the indexes to their vital records. That's still pending. Obviously, everything is on hold right now. But they're very actively involved in getting things released to the public. So it's a great resource, and it might be something that you may not have been aware of. So definitely get in there and check it out. Okay, social media. A lot of people don't think of social media when they think of genealogy. But honestly, Facebook and YouTube can be some of your most valuable resources when it comes to genealogy. One of the things that I take advantage of all the time are Facebook genealogy groups. There are thousands of Facebook genealogy groups. A way to search for them is to simply go to the search box in Facebook and search whatever topic you're interested in with the word genealogy. So if you're looking for genealogy in Albany, New York, you can search Albany genealogy. If you're searching for information about Irish genealogy, you can search Irish genealogy. There are literally thousands of genealogy groups on Facebook. They vary in content, in size, in administration quality. There's lots of variation. Some of the groups are very well monitored. The discussions are constantly monitored for content. If people get political or they get off topic, then their posts are removed. There are other groups that are not so well monitored, but the best that you can do is to search for your group, join the group. If you don't like it, you can always get out of it. But just as an example of something that happens in Facebook groups very frequently is people will post pictures of documents that they're trying to read. Maybe they're in a foreign language. Maybe the writing is just really bad and they can't read it. But they will post a picture of the document and then they will ask for people's opinions as to what it says. Can anybody read this? Can you tell me what you think it is? And believe me, when you're trying to read handwriting, having several sets of eyes on it can be extremely helpful. So this is one thing that I find Facebook groups are really good for. They are also really good for tossing around ideas. If you don't know about how to research something, or you don't know what resources are available for a particular area or topic, a Facebook group is a great place to start. Another thing that Facebook groups are great for is volunteer lookups. So if someone is living nearby a resource and knows about it, sure, they would be very happy to look it up for you. I find that people that belong to Facebook groups are very generous with their time. So it's a wonderful resource. A little bit about YouTube. Everybody's familiar with YouTube. It's not just the place where your teenagers go to share videos. YouTube has lots of content genealogy related. One particular series I want to mention is an ancestry series that's produced by Krista Cowan. She is called the Barefoot Genealogist, and she has hundreds of videos on Facebook or on YouTube about all kinds of topics. So there are topics related to how to search for records, to how to work with your DNA, to how to make connections with people. So lots and lots of really good YouTube videos about how to do things. So a lot of us in these times are looking for ways to repair things or ways to do things, and we look for YouTube videos. Well, the same can be said for genealogy with YouTube. Pinterest, a lot of you know, is an online bulletin board. You can find lots of genealogy ideas on Pinterest. You will find people that collect links about different things. So it's a good place to go to look for links, is Pinterest. All right, and finally, my final contribution today is the US GenWeb project. Now, the US GenWeb project has been around since the early days of the internet, and it was created to share resources for genealogy across the United States. And there are also offshoots. There's World GenWeb projects. There's the United Kingdom GenWeb project. But the one I'm going to talk about a little bit is just the US GenWeb project. It's broken down by counties and states. So if you go into the page, you can see you've got this lovely map. I really like things with maps because they're very easy to navigate. You can click on your state of interest, and it will bring up resources for that state that are very general. If you're looking for a particular county, you can go to a different map, and you get the counties spelled out. Now, one thing about the GenWeb project is that counties vary in their content and in their administration, just as the Facebook groups do. Some of the county websites are more active than others. I tend to go to Schoharie because I know it's one of the very best of them. You can see that it was updated on May 4th of this year. So it's kept up with, it's updated, new content is added all the time. These websites are very good for giving you information about a specific area. If you are planning a research trip to Schoharie County, this would be a good place to start. It will give you the names of the libraries, of the archives, of places where there are records that you can go and visit. It will give us a lot of information about cemeteries. It gives us a lot of general local information. So I find these Gen websites to be very valuable for our local information. So definitely check out the Gen websites, see what there is to offer. It's always a great place to start when we're looking for local content. So that's what I've got today for free websites. And hopefully we've got some questions. Let's see what
we've got from Dave. He said that he has trouble uploading obits from newspapers.com to FindAGrave. Can you advise?
Okay, so uploading obits from, so the actual pictures of the obituaries, probably your best bet for doing that is going to be to use the snipping tool. I don't know if you're using a Windows operating system or an Apple operating system, but with a Windows operating system, I would use the snipping tool. That allows you to take a JPEG image of anything that's on your screen, and you can save that and then upload it as a JPEG to the FindAGrave site. So hopefully that'll work for you. I've found that to be very, very useful.
Okay, if anyone else has any questions, you can type them into the chat or the Q&A area. Just to reiterate, we're hoping to have Lisa back on Monday, June 8th at noon for Myths About Your Immigrant Ancestors. So make sure you check the library's calendar for that in the upcoming week or so to find that confirmed and to register. And also this is being recorded, so you can refer back to it at the library's YouTube channel in the near future as well. Okay, we've got a question from Debbie. She says, my maiden name is Harrison. It says they were from Ireland, but I was told it is an English name. I was always told I have Irish ancestry. What is the truth?
Well, you'll have to do the research to find out. Best thing to do when you're starting out is start with yourself and work backwards. Get information about your parents first, then your grandparents, and then move back to your great-grandparents. You can use things like census records or newspaper articles or cemetery records. Any of those types of records will help you to establish who is related to whom. There are lots of good getting started with genealogy videos on YouTube. There are lots of resources in getting started with genealogy on the website Cindy's List. So I would urge you to take advantage of any of those resources to help you get started, and that will definitely allow you to dig further back into your ancestry and see who is where and what. So also, if anybody thinks of any questions after this and they don't, they don't remember, and when we're off of here, you can certainly feel free to email me questions. If anyone would like a handout from this presentation, you can email me and I will send you a handout because I have a list of all of these websites that we went over, and I can certainly even email that to you if you send me an email request. Also, every Wednesday on my Facebook page, I'm taking questions all day. So you can send me a question at any time on my Facebook page. You can either send me a message or you can post it right on the page itself. So anytime on Wednesday, I'll be very happy to answer your questions.
Okay, well, it looks like we don't have any more questions coming in right now.
Okay, great.
So I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today, and thank you very much, Lisa, for another wonderful presentation.
Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we will see you next month.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good afternoon.